The South China Sea, a vital artery for global trade and rich in resources, is more than just a stretch of water on the map. It is a lifeline for billions, with nearly a third of the world's shipping passing through its busy lanes each year. Beneath its surface lie vast reserves of oil, gas, and fisheries, making it a prize coveted by many nations. But today, this crucial waterway has become the epicenter of a dangerous geopolitical standoff, where military might and national ambitions collide. On September 27, 2025, tensions between China, the Philippines, and the United States have reached a boiling point. The world's attention is fixed on this flashpoint, where every maneuver is scrutinized and every decision could have far-reaching consequences. Years of Chinese expansion, constructing artificial islands, deploying advanced weaponry, and asserting sweeping territorial claims have steadily pushed the region to the brink of open conflict. These islands, bristling with radar domes and missile batteries, now serve as forward bases, altering the balance of power. In response, the Philippines, now backed more assertively than ever by the United States, is pushing back. What once were legal disputes in international courts have spilled over into real-world naval confrontations, with joint patrols and shows of force becoming routine. Warships and Coast Guard vessels from several nations now operate in dangerously close quarters, their crews on constant alert. The risk of miscalculation or accidental escalation has never been higher, with every encounter carrying the potential to spiral out of control. Recent incidents, ranging from ship collisions and aggressive maneuvers to high-stakes political brinkmanship, signal a fundamental shift in the region's security landscape. The rules of engagement are being tested and the margin for error is razor-thin. The stakes could not be higher. Sovereignty, international law, and the stability of the global economy all hang in the balance. Disruption here would send shockwaves through supply chains, affecting everything from energy prices to the availability of everyday goods worldwide. As leaders in Beijing, Manila, and Washington weigh their next moves, the world watches with bated breath. Hopes for diplomacy remain, but so too does the fear that a single misstep could ignite a conflict with consequences far beyond these waters. The fate of the South China Sea will not only determine the future of this region, but will also shape the course of international relations and global stability for years to come. In August 2025, chaos erupted near Scarborough Shoal, a flashpoint in the South China Sea that has long been a symbol of simmering tensions between China and the Philippines. The waters here, rich in resources and strategic value, have seen countless confrontations, but nothing quite like what unfolded that day. During a high-speed pursuit, a Chinese Navy destroyer collided with a China Coast Guard vessel, as both attempted to intercept the Philippine Coast Guard's BRP. The chase was chaotic, with ships weaving dangerously close, alarms blaring, and crews scrambling to avoid disaster. In the confusion, the two Chinese ships, meant to work together, ended up crashing into each other, sending shockwaves through their ranks and the international community. The collision left both vessels badly damaged, with debris scattered across the water and emergency crews rushing to respond. Reports soon confirmed casualties among the Chinese crews, turning a tense standoff into a humanitarian crisis and a major international incident. In Manila, outrage erupted. Philippine officials condemned China's reckless tactics, blaming Beijing's aggressive maneuvers for the disaster. Protests broke out in the streets, with citizens demanding accountability and international support. China, meanwhile, refused to accept responsibility. Instead of de-escalating, it sent fighter jets roaring over the contested waters, harassing Philippine patrol planes and signaling its determination to maintain control. For Filipino sailors, the incident was a stark reminder of the daily dangers they face. Every patrol is a test of nerves, with the threat of violence always looming just over the horizon. What began as a routine mission quickly spiraled into chaos, showing just how fragile peace is in these contested waters. The incident highlighted a sobering reality. The greatest risk in the South China Sea may not be a deliberate act of war, but a deadly accident in these crowded, volatile waters, one that could ignite a much larger conflict. The Scarborough collision was a wake-up call for the world. What once seemed like a distant possibility, the outbreak of open conflict, suddenly felt terrifyingly real and immediate. As headlines flashed across the globe, it became clear. The South China Sea is a powder keg, and the world is watching, hoping the next spark won't set off a catastrophe. The United States responded with remarkable speed and decisiveness, immediately dispatching the USS Higgins, a formidable guided missile destroyer, to the region. This move was not just a routine deployment, it was a calculated signal to both allies and adversaries that the U.S. was ready to stand by its commitments in the Pacific. Alongside the Higgins, the USS Cincinnati and several other U.S. Navy vessels joined the operation, forming a powerful naval presence in the contested waters. Their arrival was an unmistakable show of support for the Philippines, reinforcing the message that the U.S.-Philippines alliance is more than just words on paper. This deployment was more than mere symbolism. It was a direct and visible warning to Beijing that the U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty is both real and enforceable, and that any aggression would be met with a united front. The sight of American warships on the horizon boosted Filipino morale, reassuring the local population and military that they were not alone. At the same time, it sent a clear message to China that any escalation would not go unchecked or unanswered. In response, Chinese vessels began shadowing the U.S. ships, creating a tense and precarious standoff between two of the world's most powerful navies. The atmosphere was charged, with every maneuver watched closely by both sides. Washington's policy is now explicit. Any attack on Philippine forces in the South China Sea could trigger direct U.S. intervention, a stance that has been communicated clearly to both allies and rivals. The U.S. aims to deter China from taking aggressive actions without provoking outright war, but the risk of direct confrontation has never been higher. Every decision, every movement, is fraught with the potential for miscalculation. The South China Sea has become a crowded, volatile arena, with warships from multiple nations maneuvering in close quarters. One misstep, one misunderstanding, could quickly spiral into a larger conflict with global repercussions. The American response has dramatically raised the stakes for everyone involved, increasing both the risks and the urgency for diplomatic solutions. The world is watching closely, aware that the margin for error is razor-thin, and that the decisions made here could shape the future of international relations in the region for years to come. President Marcos Jr. has shifted the Philippines from cautious neutrality to assertive defense, especially regarding Taiwan. He declared Philippine involvement inevitable if China invades Taiwan, shattering decades of ambiguity and alarming Beijing. Manila has deepened military ties with the U.S., granting expanded base access and conducting joint war games near Taiwan. American missile systems have even been temporarily deployed on Philippine soil, signaling readiness for any crisis. The Philippines is no longer a passive bystander. It's building a coalition to push back against Chinese aggression. This new stance has fundamentally altered the region's strategic calculus. Manila is now a key player in shaping the Indo-Pacific's future. The Philippines is forging new security partnerships, most notably with India. In August 2025, the two nations held their first joint naval exercises in the South China Sea, inside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Indian warships sailed alongside Philippine frigates, sending a clear message. The region's security is a shared concern. China condemned the drills, but the partnership signals a growing willingness among regional powers to counterbalance Beijing. India's involvement adds a new layer to the strategic landscape, making it more complex and multipolar. The Philippines is no longer reliant solely on the U.S., it's building a broader network of allies. The sight of Indian and Philippine ships together is a sign of a shifting balance of power. Scarborough Shoal is more than a disputed reef. It's a symbol of sovereignty and a strategic prize. Just over 100 nautical miles from Luzon, it lies well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, yet China seized control in 2012 and has blocked Filipino fishermen ever since. An international tribunal rejected China's claims in 2016, but Beijing ignores the ruling and enforces its will through force. Scarborough's location makes it a potential military outpost, completing a triangle of Chinese bases that could dominate the South China Sea. For Manila and Washington, further militarization is a red line. Every confrontation here is a microcosm of the larger struggle: law versus power, livelihoods versus ambition. The fate of this tiny atoll could tip the balance of peace in the entire region. The South China Sea crisis is accelerating the formation of new alliances to counter China's rise. The U.S.-Philippines partnership is stronger than ever, with expanded base access and joint exercises. India's involvement, along with support from Japan and Australia, is creating a web of security ties across the Indo-Pacific. These coalitions challenge China's strategy of isolating its neighbors and force Beijing to confront a united front. China denounces these alliances as bloc politics, but its own actions have driven its neighbors together. The strategic map of Asia is being redrawn, with the South China Sea as the main arena of competition. The region is no longer a collection of isolated states, but two competing coalitions. The South China Sea dispute is now deeply linked to the fate of Taiwan. President Marcos's vow to support Taiwan in a crisis has created a continuous arc of potential conflict from the South China Sea to the Taiwan Strait. The Philippines' northern islands are just 200 miles from Taiwan, making them critical in any future conflict. U.S. access to Philippine bases means American forces could quickly contest Chinese moves in the region. For Beijing, every Philippine action is now seen as part of a broader U.S.-led effort to contain China. The risk of escalation is now twofold. A clash in the South China Sea could trigger a crisis over Taiwan, or vice versa. The world faces the terrifying prospect that a single miscalculation could ignite a superpower confrontation. As September 2025 ends, the South China Sea remains a cauldron of risk, with nationalism, strategy, and law colliding. The Scarborough incident showed how quickly aggression can spiral into chaos, drawing in the U.S. and shrinking the margin for error. The Philippines' bold new strategy, alliances with the U.S., India, and others, and explicit support for Taiwan, has raised the stakes for all. The region is trapped in a security dilemma, where defensive moves are seen as threats, fueling escalation. The best hope is a return to tense stability, but the risk of a limited or even major conflict remains ever present. Only a careful balance of deterrence and diplomacy can prevent disaster. The world's peace and prosperity depend on navigating these choppy waters with restraint and wisdom.